who controlled every aspect of the church. The church priesthood had as many barriers and dead ends as the army had, and picking a path to power had given him a challenge, but surviving in the streets had proved a harsh yet enlightening education. His natural skills and intuition meant he knew the right moment to act, and more than once he had managed to convince someone else to be responsible for the fall of one of his rivals. He merely suggested something, and other people acted, and he made sure they believed it was their own brilliance that had led to the targeted rival's downfall. Gang leader or powerful episcopus, he could apply his talents equally, discerning quickly who was truly loyal or easily manipulated or even bought, who might become an ally and who must be neutralized or even destroyed. On the streets, he had learned early which boys were bullies full of bluster. They came and went, often to an early grave or a slave gang, but the truly clever, the gifted and thoughtful, they endured. Those were the ones he observed and listened to as he sought to survive. Over the years, Bernardo had also found it convenient to shape the truth of his past to suit the fluid politics of the Church of the One. Those who knew the inconvenient facts of his early life were either his closest supporters or dead. Ridding himself of potential enemies had sharpened his naturally keen intellect and driven patience into the very fibre of his being. He had waited months, even years at times, to see a rival dead. His imperturbability was almost legendary within the higher echelons of the church in Brojus. He was now counted among the wisest of the rulers of the church, and by wide consensus, the most patient. Today he was approaching the end of that patience. More than once he had come close to death, either in the name of the One or in establishing his place in the hierarchy of the church, and right now he'd gladly return to those moments and embrace a quick death. He sat silently in a large bedchamber in the castle of Ludovico, most holy majesty of Sanjura, ruler of the single greatest power on the twin continents of North and South Tembria. Getting Ludovico to sit motionless for hours had proved impossible, but Bernardo had managed to get him to sit for minutes at a time, a small but necessary step in Bernardo establishing complete control over the king and, through him, the kingdom of Sanjura. The king sat as still as he could, while a painter attempted to capture his magnificence on a treated board of cured wood. The artist was a captive from the city of Ithra, taken by one of Ludovico's oathmen. He had managed to survive the destruction of Ithrace's capital, avoiding death and slavery, but not captivity. His name was Bantiago. Bernardo watched closely as Bantiago deftly applied colour to the wood and, through some artistic magic, created a likeness of Ludovico that was flattering but not overtly false. Bernardo understood how the painter had survived the destruction of Ithrace. His superb talents had kept him from death. Bantiago painted so well that he had been passed from one noble to another over the years, building a reputation and eventually living well by painting brilliant portraits of his captors. Despite still being considered a captive, Bantiago travelled with servants, most of whom were strikingly handsome young men, an apprentice also handsome to the point of being pretty, and a token guard. It was a captivity to be envied by most citizens of Sanjura, thought Bernardo. These portraits were an Ithraci thing, a vanity that rather offended Ludovico, but gradually Bernardo had convinced him to sit for a portrait to commemorate his glory. Bernardo had studied Ludovico for more than a year before they met, and he had now been a member of the king's court, his most trusted adviser, for a decade. He knew the monarch of Sanjura had hated the way he looked his entire life. The king knew he was often mocked for his appearance behind his back. His nose was slightly bent to the right, his left eye was marginally higher than the right, and his rare smile was noticed.